My legs do not feel good right now. I just summited a mountain 3 days ago in very snowy conditions, and I don't feel good at all, but I'm still going running today. And in this video, I want to talk more about if you're experiencing a niggle or something doesn't feel quite right, rest is not always the answer. In fact, it could just prolong whatever issue that you might be dealing with. So in this video, I want to talk more about what you can do as soon as you start experiencing something that doesn't feel quite right, the beginning of an injury, a small niggle, because rest is not always the right answer. You know, I remember when I was younger, the plan whenever you felt something not feeling quite right was to take a week off. The plan was always let your body rest, let your body recover, and then when you come back, you're gonna be feeling a lot better. This almost never worked. I mean, it worked a couple times, especially when you're really young and you're just able to heal so much faster. But rest is not treatment for an injury. Rest is just letting it calm down a little bit. But ultimately, rest is not addressing the underlying cause of whatever is giving you issues. So I don't recommend doing what I used to do, which was just taking a week off and hoping that the injury or niggle would just disappear. Hope is not a plan, and rest is not treatment. Now I have a very different approach when it comes to dealing with any kind of excess soreness or the beginnings of an injury or a niggle. Now what I like to do is anything I can to continue exercising, to continue training. And I think the maxim that we all have to remember is you could always do something. You may not be able to go run your 20-mile long run, but is this an issue that only pops up after an hour of running? So maybe you can run for about an hour. Or maybe this is an issue that only pops up when you are running fast. So maybe you don't run that workout, but you can still do all of the mileage. Maybe you can't really run at all without your issue giving you some problems. So you can cross-train. Maybe you can get on the bike or do some pool running or the elliptical. Can you keep training in a slightly different way? Can you do a strength training workout? Can you maybe just go for a hike or a walk and keep your body moving? There's usually always something you can do, and I want to encourage you to do exactly that, to try to continue the training process and honor the spirit of the training process, even if you can't do exactly what you want to do, even if you can't do exactly what is on your training plan. Because if you can keep moving, if you can keep that blood flow going, that's going to help you heal from whatever injury you have. And we can often train right through a small injury if we're careful, if we're strategic, and we're not doing anything that makes it worse. An easy framework I have for not making a niggle worse, not turning that niggle into a real full-blown season-ending injury is, number one, don't run if the pain or discomfort just gets worse as you go running. So if the pain just builds and builds, or it just feels worse and worse as you run, don't run through a pain like that. Or if you're dealing with some kind of discomfort that alters your running form, you find yourself compensating. You change your form a little bit and, oh, well, it doesn't hurt if I land on the outside of my foot a little bit more. These things are actually giving you small self-imposed limps. You don't want to give yourself a self-imposed limp and change how you run so that it's not painful anymore. That's just going to cause extra problems. It could lead to some imbalances, and you might find a new niggle popping up next week because you've been running with compromised running form. So those are two really easy ways of figuring out whether or not you should run through some type of pain, some type of discomfort. And don't let it get worse as you run, and don't let it change your running form. If you can do these two things, you're probably okay to run easily and carefully through a very small injury. Finally, the last thing that you definitely want to avoid is any kind of pain or discomfort that's sharp, that's stabbing, that really stops you in your tracks, that takes your breath away. If it's more of a dull, achy soreness, that's usually more okay to run through. Now, of course, you want to listen to your body, you want to listen to your physical therapist if you're seeing one, but if you are dealing with a more dull, achy soreness, it's generally okay to run through as long as the other 2 points are met as well. It doesn't continue to get worse as you run, or it doesn't cause you to alter your running form to compensate around the pain. I could not make these videos without your support. So first, let me say thank you. And this video is brought to you by our very own Performance Training Journal.
I have always been in love with hard copy training journals for a few really good reasons. Number one, when I was a new runner and I started keeping an actual training journal like this, I learned so much more about the sport and myself just by that practice. It really forces you to reflect on your training, to think more deeply about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And if you are constantly reflecting on your training, praising yourself for what's going right, planning for the future, and then looking back on what has previously worked for you, you are gonna really know yourself as a runner, and you're gonna start to make wiser decisions about your training. I also created this training journal because I want you to focus on the training metrics that actually matter. The training metrics that help you improve, get better, and progress with your running. We don't have to focus on everything. We just need to focus on what matters. I also took a lot of inspiration from professional runners that I've talked to on the Strength Running podcast. They're adamant by completing a training journal and reflecting on what works for you and actually giving yourself some praise within your journal. You're essentially completing a gratitude journal. You are building up your confidence in your own abilities over time. And when you look back on that journal before a big goal race, you are going to be reading in your own words why you're capable, why you can do this. And I can think of nothing more confidence building than an act like that. So I hope you check out the new performance training journal. It is now available on Amazon. It debuted as the #4 new release in the running category, and I could not be more proud of it. So thank you again for subscribing to the Strength Running YouTube channel, and I hope you enjoy the Performance Training Journal.
Now, there are 3 reasons why you want to keep training through a very small niggle. Reason number 1 is because it's actually going to help the healing process. You're actually going to aid the healing process because you're going to be bringing a lot of beneficial blood flow to the area. And like we said earlier, rest is not treatment. You're not going to expand your range of motion, develop any strength. You're not really going to address any of the problems that your injury is there because of if you're not doing anything. If you're just sitting on the couch and if you're just waiting for that injury to heal itself, you're probably going to struggle with that. So you do want to keep training through it. It's going to help your injury. The other reason is because, well, you can still gain a good amount of fitness if you're still doing some training. Maybe that's through cross training. Maybe that's through strength training. Maybe you're getting a little bit outside of your comfort zone and you are going to a new Pilates class, or you're going to a new type of fitness class. You can diagnose any weaknesses or strengths that way. I think it's a really beneficial way of getting to know yourself as an athlete a little better. But maybe my favorite reason for continuing to do some training through a small injury is you can actually unlock new levels of fitness through your cross training and your approach to injuries. Because let's say that you're injured and you can't run. Now, it's not a serious injury. You think you're going to be able to get back to it in maybe a week or so, but in that week, you commit to doing a lot of cycling and pool running. Now, the injury risk with cycling and pool running, especially if you're on a stationary bike and you're not actually out there on the road, is that you can do a lot of it. There's virtually no impact. These are not load-bearing forms of training. And so the benefit here is that you can over-index on volume. You could do a lot more cross-training than you can running. So you might do 2.5 hours a day, if your schedule allows it, of this kind of cross-training. And all of a sudden, you come back from this injury and you're in even better shape. You feel better. You're aerobically at a higher level. And this is going to help you get your running to the next level. So I love to see runners training aggressively through small injuries, through niggles. You can still get in some kind of training, and it really depends on what kind of niggle that you might be experiencing. But don't take this as an opportunity to rest. Take this as an opportunity to get creative with your training so that you can keep pushing your fitness forward. Now, I was a very injury-prone runner when I was training really hard, and this topic is very near and dear to me because I missed a lot of time as an injured runner during my collegiate and post-collegiate years. I don't want that to happen to you. So this topic is something that I love to talk about because injury management was such a huge part of my training, and it's not the most fun part of training. I'd rather be out there running. I'd rather be out there just, pouring myself into the sport rather than on the exercise bike or in the pool doing some pool running, because as we all know, that's incredibly boring. And we don't want to do that unless it is part of our training and we're doing it to get over an injury. So I hope this helps you navigate some of your small niggles, your little injuries. Let's just remember that if it's serious, if, this is one of those season-ending injuries, definitely go see a physical therapist. But I do think it's really important for runners to learn how to self-treat small injuries. Because after all, running is a fairly injury-prone sport. And if you're always having to go to the physical therapist for every tiny little ache and pain and niggle that you might be experiencing, you might be in the PT's office once or twice a week. So learning how to care for some of these injuries is really important. If you want to learn more about this, go to strengthrunning.com/prevention. You're going to get an email a day about how to stay healthy, how to manage these little injuries, and how to design a lot of these injury prevention strategies directly into your training so that you don't have to spend hours every day on injury prevention. Your training is simply structured in a way to give you these benefits without really a second thought. That's strengthrunning.com/prevention for our best injury prevention tips directly from Strength Running. And until then, I hope you stay healthy, hope you run hard, and hope you stay strong.